Some time ago, I made a review of the Nitecore EDC23 Quite an unusual light in terms of its features, but very capable nonetheless. Well, now Nitecore has sent me out a new version, a little bit smaller. This is the EDC23. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on this light, keep watching. All right, before we get started, I do want to thank Nitecore for sending out the EDC23 so that I could share it with you. So, as always, we'll go down to the tabletop. I'll go over the key features, physical and performance specifications, as well as its modes of operation. I'll compare it against the EDC27HI. Then, of course, we'll get it outside and we'll do some demonstrations. Now, just before we focus in on the EDC23, let me share with you what it came with. This is the box the light arrived in. Inside of the box, as you might expect, is a USB Type-C charging cable, as well as a manual with warranty information. One other thing that was in the box, was not expecting this, a lanyard, paracord lanyard with a carabiner on the end of it. We'll talk more about that in a few moments' time. Now, I want to talk just for a moment about a few of the key features for the EDC23, especially in comparison with the other version, the EDC27i. So, like the 27i, this has the same two operating buttons on top. Like the 27i, it has the same visual display, status display screen right here. But what this light has that the 27i does not have is a lockout slide button on the side. I can't tell you how much of an improvement, upgrade that is, at least in my opinion. You can certainly lock this light out, the older 27i, with a sequence of button presses giving you either semi or full lockout. You can still use button presses to semi-lock out this light, but really I think this slide just kind of makes it all negligible or not necessary at all. You can just simply slide it up, your light is locked, no accidental turning it on. Slide it down and you're good to go, just that simple. All right, let's go through a few of the specifications, and I'll be putting all this information, of course, in the video description for your reference if you want to skip ahead, and you can look at that later. So overall length, 4.05 inches, width, 1.3 inches. Weight, and I would say with the battery installed, but it comes with a battery installed, 3.56 inches. It has two of the NiteLab UHi 25 LEDs. It has a built-in 1500 milliamp hour lithium ion battery, which is non-accessible. That's pretty much seems to be the trademark for all of the Nitecore lights, as they build the batteries in, and I know that's a deal breaker for some people, so I just wanted to be upfront about that. Having said that, I do notice that it is assembled with small Torx screws. It looks as if you really needed to replace the battery. That's outside of the warranty, because warranty should cover it up until, well, the warranty period, that they should be able to service this for you. Now, the body itself is made of stainless steel, and it does have a nice titanium coating on the outside. It has an IP54 waterproof rating, but strangely, it has a full 2-meter impact rating. All right, let's go through the performance specifications for the EDC23 at turbo. 2500 lumens. It's only going to last you about 8 seconds. In fact, you can watch the power run down across the screen when you turn it on. Not a high running turbo. Now, in contrast, I want to point this out now. The EDC27HI has a 3100 lumen turbo. I'm going to take both of them outdoors and give you a side-by-side comparison, running them both on turbo at the same time, because what I have found so far in my testing is the 27HI is a little bit brighter, but not that much. Believe it or not, the EDC23, is almost as bright, at least perceptually, as is the 27i. All right, let's continue on. In high, 1100 lumens. That'll last for 1 hour, 30 minutes. That's pretty good when you think about it. Mid, 200 lumens, 3 hours, 45 minutes. Low, 65 lumens, lasting 11 hours, and it has an ultra low of 15 lumens, lasting 39 hours. It does have a strobe, of course, and the strobe blasts out at a full 2500 100 lumens. All right, let's go through the operation of the EDC23. And again, this is virtually identical to the 27HI. So if you're familiar with one operating system, you're going to be familiar with both of them. In fact, these are very easy to use operating systems that you'll spend very little time having to get used to. So it all starts at the top. We have a large button on my left of the light, and that button is used for turbo and strobe only. That's it, just turbo and strobe. So it's instant access to turbo and strobe, and it's done by a partial press will give you turbo, a full press will give you strobe. It does not lock on. It goes right back to being off again when you release the pressure. So it would be turbo, very bright, and of course the camera, let me do that again. The camera will compensate quickly. You can see how bright that is, and if I press it all the way down, strobe. Okay, so that's that button. It's good to know. Making this really not just an EDC light, but a tactical light. You can operate this very much like a tactical light. I would be happy to use it in that role. The other button is the power button and / mode button, meaning lumen changes. Now, it also has the 2 level pressures. So if you press it down part way, it will give you the ultra low. If you press it down the rest of the way, it turns the light on and has a memory for whatever the last setting is. So let me give you the ultra low. It's a partial press. Look how low that is, right? Okay. If I press it down all the way and lock it on, it's at whatever the last lumen setting was. Now, to change those lumen settings, you just tap it and press it all the way down to turn it off again. There we go, and it turns off again. Now, there is a couple of other features about this well, one is more of an observation, the other is a feature that I think are worth knowing. First off, you need to know that these things get very, very hot in turbo. In fact, they made no mistake about it. They actually put hot right on the base of this. I recall when I was testing this one, I almost burnt my hand, quite literally burnt my hand. I was afraid that if this had been turned on unintentionally on turbo and in contact with something combustible, that it might actually ignite it. Now, here's the good news. One, you can't hold turbo on. It actually turns itself back off again. But still, the high is quite high, and it still does get very hot, too hot to hold for any length of time on the end. So both of these lights have a unique feature built into them that kind of makes it safer to use, just in case you did this in your pocket without, locking it out. They have proximity centers. Now, it works very clearly on the 27HI. I think I should be able to do that for you. What I'll do is I'll turn it on turbo, and as I lower it to the table, and this likely would ignite after a period of time, or at least start to smolder, you'll see the light dim itself. So as I turn it on, see how it dimmed right down? And then it turns itself off, or lowers its lumen. So that's a safety feature built into the light, which is, I guess, a real confidence thing to have, because if you were to turn this on unintentionally in your back pocket, it gets quite hot. I do want to point that out. So that feature is really a necessity as much as anything else. Now, the same thing exists on the smaller EDC23. The only difference is how it turns on. So what I've discovered is that it doesn't just flick to the lower lumens, it runs slowly down to the lower lumens. I don't even think this will show up in demonstration, but we'll give it a try. So if I'm holding it down here and I turn it on turbo, I can see it slowly run down in lumens, not as distinctive, not as quickly as it does with the other light, but still it's working. I guess that's the important thing. Now, I also want to point out the clip on the back, the actual pocket clip. It is removable. I think it's easier to see. It's the same pocket clip on both. The pocket clip on the back is removable from the flashlight if you want something a little bit more slimline in your pocket, but look at that. That's pretty slim to start with, right? And the lanyard is actually can be transferred one to the other. Now, of course, it's easy enough to make your own lanyard if you bought this light and don't have one with it. So the same pocket clip, the lanyard runs through. Again, it's probably easier to see on this light where there is a slot right there. That's where the lanyard runs through. take it or leave it. I actually kind of enjoy the lanyard. I'm carrying it in my pocket. It's not as if it's something that I would hook on my belt, because when you need the light, you don't want to have to be trying to get it unhooked from your belt loop or wherever it is. But if you're carrying this on some web gear or on a backpack or something, and you're looking for just that little bit of extra safety, that's when this actually does play an important role to have. Or maybe you're just hanging it off of a loop somewhere on your backpack as opposed to using the pocket clip again, then that would be actually of considerable value. Nighttime testing for the Nitecore EDC23, extra low, low, medium, high, and turbo. Turbo's really lighting up this yard, my neighbor's yard, and up beyond that even. Final thoughts for the Nitecore EDC23 pocket flashlight. Do you know, I'm not necessarily a fan of a lot of high technology in a flashlight unless it's serving a useful purpose. And in this case with the Nitecore, the technology is definitely there. The features on this, well, there's more features on this than I think than any other light, at least that I've tested so far. And they actually do serve a legitimate purpose. Yes, the display will show the amount of time left on, well, what lumen setting you're on and how long you have left at that lumen setting. But more important than the display is the button system on the end of it. It's 2 buttons, and I know that may sound a little bit confusing, but the moment you get used to it, you understand fully what each of them does, and you actually see the benefit of having those 2 buttons there. Now, another thing I want to talk about is actually holding this in my hand. Now, I have the lanyard in, so let me just kind of hand the lanyard out of the way. So if I'm using it in tactical mode, where I'm using my thumb for the operation, my thumb will land nicely either on the turbo button or on the power button right there. And that's true of both of these lights, because of course it is exactly the same on both of these lights. The only difference is how long this is. And that's what I think this has a distinct advantage over the 27HI, is that it is a shorter light, making it easier for you to carry in your pocket. So, just a little bit more comfortable to carry around. Now, there is one potential downside, we'll say, with that. Now, it may be me with the size of my hands. I did not notice this when I was carrying the 27HI, but can you see how the LEDs stick out at the bottom of my hand? Let me get a good grip on it. If I was using the light like this, that means they don't come in contact with this part of my hand at all. Well, guess what? They do with this one. They are in contact. So if I'm holding this and I turn the light on turbo, now mind you again, it only lasts 8 seconds before it drops down to 1100, it can get really hot. So I just have to be a little bit conscious of that when I'm holding it like this, that I don't hold my hand over the LEDs where the heat does build up. Small thing, really. The overall convenience of the smaller size does make this a really good choice. However, if you're looking for a little longer run times and a little bit higher in the lumen settings and you don't mind the extra size, certainly the EDC27HI is a good choice for you as well. Okay, that's everything I have to say for the EDC23. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments section below. I will, of course, be putting the links to where you can take another look at both of these lights in the video description, as well as all the specifications mentioned. I will also put a link to the video review I did of the 27HI, so that if you need to go back and have a better comparison between the two, you can do that as well. All right, get out and explore, and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.